You know, it's a pretty good thing we all have access to cameras these days. Otherwise, a lot of people wouldn't believe a lot of things that happen around us. Granted, we're still always kind of split on believing anything anyway, but you know, moving on. Whether it's a GoPro, a professional video camcorder, or just your phone camera, now you have a lot of options to document your everyday life and have proof of any extraordinary things that might happen around you. Today, we're going to be looking at things that you wouldn't believe if they hadn't been filmed. We're going to go through a lot of fun and exciting videos of things that you don't get to see every day, but they definitely happen, and there are videos to prove it. With all that said and done, let's begin, shall we? The Lucky Fisherman. When this guy finally caught something on his net, he started to pull it back up. At first, it seems like a regular catch. He pulls out one fish, and then another one comes out, and then another one, until finally he has a net so full that he almost loses his balance. At the end, there were so many fish inside the net that he had a hard time pulling the whole thing back up. But it seems like things ended pretty well for this guy. He came back to the shore, and the crowd cheered for his extraordinary accomplishment. Our next video, The Survivor. I hear a lot about near-death experiences, but I rarely get to watch videos of the moments when these people actually come face-to-face with death. Kinda like the man in China who was standing in traffic when all of a sudden a huge construction crane smashed his car. By looking at the video, you could easily think the guy was not meant to survive, but he did. A few seconds after the incident, you can see him jumping out of the car. He was obviously scared and, well, I can't really blame him. I'm just glad he's alive to tell the story, though. His poor car, though. Our next one is dogfight. Dogfights are quite common, but the one right here is actually pretty funny, which is a sentence I never thought I'd actually say. It all happened while the police were trying to negotiate with an armed robbery suspect. Suddenly, though, a small pug in the neighborhood picked a fight with a police dog at the scene. The pug is certainly little, but it's not afraid to come face-to-face with a fierce and well-trained police dog. Finally, the pug exits the scene, and you can even see that some of the members of the police force followed him to make sure he didn't come back to mess with their canine friend. The next video is The Great Escape. Sometimes when we're doing silly things, we're likely to run into trouble. And sometimes trouble means illegal trouble. You know, police can get involved, you might go to jail, the fun stuff. What do you do when the police show up, though? Well, if you ask the guy in this video for advice, he'd give you a very crazy idea. This guy was getting ready to jump off a bridge with his professional equipment when suddenly he was confronted by a cop to stop doing whatever he had in mind. The guy established a quick and short conversation, and right when the police asked him to stop and give up, the guy jumped off and began flying with the help of his parachute. That's not the craziest thing I've actually seen. Heck, it's honestly not the craziest thing on this list, but it's still pretty cool. Our next video is the tank crash. You don't really see tanks on the streets every day unless there's something pretty serious happening in your city. So when you spot one, since they're not an everyday sight, you're likely to pull out your phone and record. Kinda like the people behind this video in Minsk, who pulled out their phones to record this impressive tank moving along the streets of the Belarusian capital. I'm glad they're recording, otherwise we wouldn't believe what happened next. Like, I can hardly believe it, and I'm watching it. The tank then skidded and crashed on a traffic light in an epic way. Was he going too fast? Yeah, maybe. Other tanks passed by him afterwards, and none of them had the same unlucky fate as this one. The pine that was struck by lightning. I really don't get why the people behind this video set up the camera the way they did, but it seems like they knew that something epic was about to happen. And sure enough, a few seconds after they hit the record button, they witnessed a pine tree getting struck by lightning. In just a matter of seconds, the tree caught on fire and split into pieces before falling on the house next to it and causing some pretty serious damage to it. Luckily, no one got hurt, but it was definitely a scary thing to witness. Our next video is the giant spider. Would you believe me if I told you that you can find spiders at high altitude? Well, there's a video to show that, actually quite a couple of videos if you search online. The passengers on this plane found a huge spider outside their window. Well, actually it seems like it was stuck in the gap between the inner and outer glass. The spider later disappeared, probably sliding through the gaps. Although we don't get to know the name of the airline, I must mention that this is not the first time something like this has happened. Now I do wonder if this also happens in first class, or if it's one of the downsides of flying in economy. Our next video is another survivor, and here's another person who was at the wrong spot at the wrong time. This person was caught in a landslide during Kong Ray, which was one of the worst storms to hit Taiwan. Right after the landslide fell, a huge boulder came down and almost hit that car. The whole thing was enough to destroy the car and kill anyone inside, but the author of the video claims the 2 people inside the car survived the incident and only suffered minor injuries. So hey, that's a good thing at least. Our next one is Naughty Monkey. Alright, the next video might be slightly disturbing, but before you watch it, I just want you to know. The kid on this video is alright, he just suffered a few scratches. But what happened is that a monkey snatched a toddler off his bench and dragged him away. This poor innocent kid was just hanging out with other kids when all of a sudden, this naughty monkey jumped on the kid and grabbed him. I wouldn't want to be that kid, and that kid probably didn't want to be himself either. That kid's probably gonna have a fear of monkeys for the rest of his life. Our next video is the friendly beluga whale. There are naughty animals, but there are other ones who are friendly and very helpful, like the beluga whale in this video. There was a woman watching the beluga whale when suddenly she dropped her phone. Now in this kind of event, you aren't going to expect an animal to respond to this kind of call for help. However, the beluga whale dove down and grabbed the woman's phone to bring it back up to the surface and return it to its owner. Now alright Animal Kingdom, you're okay sometimes. Just keep the monkeys away from you. Our next video is the fish thief. Earlier on in this video, we saw a naughty monkey dragging a child. Now we got a fish who escaped the man who caught him, and if that wasn't enough, the fish also took the man's fishing pole. Once the fish was out of the water, the man thought it was safe to leave it there for a while. However, just a few moments later, the fish jumped back into the cold water and dragged the fishing pole along. I bet that guy regrets having brought this fish out of the water. Whale crashing. Who doesn't love a good whale watching trip? It's certainly a life-changing experience that offers a close encounter with some of the most amazing creatures in the world. However, sometimes these encounters can go a bit too far and end up in scary incidents, like the one in this video. You can see how the whale jumps out of the water and crashes against a sailboat off the coast of South Africa. There were 2 people on board, who thankfully didn't get hurt, but their boat suffered severe damage. Now, this is not normal whale behavior, and for that reason, the couple involved in the incident had to be investigated, and authorities had to find out if this was a legit accident or if they'd been harassing the whale. Either way, the moral of the story is, don't mess with whales. Ever. Now it's time for the day's best pick. In just a matter of seconds, you can become the witness of some of the scariest and most epic events out there, so always make sure you have your camera ready. Sometimes our cameras can help us document some pretty twisted criminal activities, like the one linked to this photo I chose for today. There's no video of this, but there's actually a story of a man in a gimp suit who was terrorizing a whole village in Somerset, England. A woman claims that he was following her while touching his crotch and doing all sorts of weird sounds. The woman couldn't take a video, but she got a picture of the guy, and it honestly looks very creepy. The guy in the suit left the woman alone as soon as she started to scream, but she admits that she's terrified to go out and find him again. I guess the police never did find out who this guy was, but they encouraged the people in town to inform them of any future appearances of this unfriendly character. Maybe next time someone like this shows up, they'll get a video. Or, maybe put the guy down. I hope so. Now let's go back and watch 2 other things that were actually caught on video. The next one being the leopard that escaped. There have been many animal escapes in history, and you've probably heard a lot about them, but the one shown in this video is probably one of the scariest ones I've ever seen. It all started when a leopard escaped the zoo in the city of Bangalore in India. Security cameras caught the wild beast as it entered the grounds of an international school. Later on, the animal was on the loose, and it began climbing buildings and jumping on people all around. It ended up injuring 6 people prior to being trained and brought back to safety. It took 10 hours for the authorities to finally catch this animal. The leopard seemed angry, and obviously I wouldn't blame it. Everyone there wanted to stay out of its way though, and I couldn't blame them. Before we move on, do me a favor. My analytics show that only about 15% of you watching are actually subscribed. Come on guys, what's up with that? Can you guys please hit that subscribe button? You guys watch my videos every day anyway, so you might as well subscribe and keep up to date with every video we put out. Our final video for the day is the chimps and the drone. It'd be impossible to finish this list without featuring another bad animal. This time the subjects are a group of chimps at a zoo in the city of Arnhem in the Netherlands. There were people in the zoo shooting an episode of a TV show that was meant to feature highlights of the zoo's facilities with the help of a drone. However, when the drone came too close to a chimpanzee, the animal whipped it with a stick and made it collapse. The costly drone was irreparable, but the team behind the video was able to save the footage and noticed that the chimps played with the drone for a bit and even took some selfies of themselves before getting bored and pulling the broken drone down. A very costly video, but isn't that spontaneous footage way more exciting than whatever it is they were trying to shoot? I'd say so personally. Have you ever caught anything exciting or funny? Let us know in the comments section down below. With all that said and done, that's our video for the day, folks. You've been watching Top Quick Peek, and I'll see you all next time.